This video will look at invention and innovation and look at the contrast in meaning between the two terms. It's often the case that we use the terms interchangeably. In fact, they are quite different, and this video wants to look at those differences. So we'll start by saying, what is invention? Well, Naylor in 1999 proposed the following definition of invention. Here, invention is seen as ideas that may or may not develop into new products or processes that best satisfy the needs of customers. They are the fruit of creativity. So they're ideas that may or may not develop into new products. The truth is, we may invent many things, but not everybody wants them. We're dealing with business studies and the commercial world in this series of classes. So underpinning what we're doing is this latent assumption, not always latent, I have to say, sometimes it's very explicit, this assumption that the products we're dealing with, the physical products and the services we're dealing with, have got commercial value, that they are going to be sold on the market, they're going to generate an income stream for the business, and they will turn up and be shown in the profit and loss account and in the balance sheet at the end of the accounting period. They will represent or generate profits. But in fact, people may invent things that are not going to have commercial impact. Sometimes people invent things because the things are useful, but small scale. Sometimes they do it just for fun, for interest. But we're dealing here with inventions that go on to make changes to people's lives. They're sold through the market. They'll have commercial impact. So what is innovation? Well, O'Sullivan and Dooley in 2009 proposed the following definitions of innovation. So innovation is the process of making changes to something established by introducing something new that adds value to customers. And that's a good definition. However, we could refine it. We could say, well, innovation is newness added to an existing product, some new facility or some new functionality or new design or whatever it is, something new added to an existing product, which would be welcomed by the customers. In other words, that innovation will generate additional sales. It's an innovated product, so it's a successful innovation. And we judge the success of the innovation commercially. We judge it by the additional sales. But it may also be the case that an innovation is cost-cutting. It's the entrepreneurs and the business community looking critically at their own establishments to try and cut out waste, to streamline production, to streamline processes, so as to have a more orderly way of going about the business, a more efficient way of going about the business, which will reduce costs and thereby, of course, increase profitability also. So innovation is a two-edged sword. It may lead to additional sales by innovating the product, or it may be sales remain relatively constant, but costs are reduced on the other side because there has been innovations in the production system, in the way in which the business goes about generating the services or the products that it's selling on the market. Innovation and invention are two different concepts. They both play an important role in the development of ideas and products. They spark each other. Invention, as we'll see, is somewhat seen as earlier in the process. Innovation tends to be later, modifying existing inventions, modifying existing processes, modifying existing products. But they are linked. They may be linked in terms of time. Invention is the creative aspect or idea for a new product, service, or process. That's when we invent it. That's when this new item comes on the market. This new item is dreamt up. Let's say it doesn't get to the market at this stage. Let's say it's some entrepreneur, some talented person who comes up with an idea for a new product, and then set about inventing that product. They may have to solve technical issues or technical problems, and they may have to go through various very contorted thinking, but finally they come up with a product. It's been invented. So it's an entirely new idea. That doesn't mean it's going to be successful in the market. It may be just a really good idea, but nobody wants it. In that sense, it's a good idea providing it's not sold, but people are not willing to pay for it. It's a novelty. It's a curiosity, but it's not commercial. So many inventions are brought up by entrepreneurs and budding entrepreneurs. There are many interesting inventions, but they're not commercial, so they don't get any further. They're just, as I said, novelties, interesting pastimes. They're just ideas. Innovation refers to adding value to existing products and services. Innovation is taking a product that's established, perhaps in the market, and modifying it, improving it. There are lots of examples. Apple have a very successful range of products, the iPad, the iPhone, and the iMac, but it's constantly looking for ways to improve it. They're constantly innovating the product. They're constantly adding functionality. So they are innovating it. It's already been invented. The product's already on the market. It's every so often they bring out updates. They bring out new functionality, new ways of using it, new additions to the range. It's not just Apple. Nearly all the computer companies do it. But we don't have to look to there. We could look at the car industry. We can look at white goods industry for appliances in the kitchen. We can look to nearly all sectors. There are established products, and as soon as the product is out and is running, the managers in the business, the directors, the creative people associated with the business will almost immediately turn to trying to get updates, improvements, and factor those in. So long-term prosperity is promoted in that way. If they don't do it, the product will become out of date, and competitors will bring out new products and in competition and will take the market. Because innovation is largely pushed by competition. Other companies bringing out similar products will constantly be updating the product and changing the product and doing surveys amongst customers to see what customers want and trying to figure out new ways of delivering the product in the sense of its functionality, its appearance, its style. So it's driven by competition. But innovation is dealing with an existing product. Invention is coming up with the idea in the first place. That's just coming up with the idea. Whether it goes on to be commercially successful or not is another issue. So let's look at invention versus innovation. Well, innovation and invention are closely related terms. We have to appreciate when we think of these two terms, we think of them being linked. And in the minds of many people, they are the same. But in fact, as we can now see, they are quite distinct. They are two totally different concepts. But totally different, but oddly enough, related. One is derived from the other. Invention may, in some cases, trigger the innovation process. So somebody comes up with something new. They've invented something new. They've invented a new product. That's no good. That's no good in the sense commercially. It's just sitting there. It's just a new invention. It looks wonderful and it does what the inventor says it does, but it's not doing anything for anyone. It's not on the market. It needs to be placed on the market. It needs to be marketed. It needs to be packaged up and presented to the customer. It needs to be explained to the customer. But once it's been launched onto the market and customers see its usefulness, now it's working. Now it's doing what the inventor wanted it to do, to satisfy a need in the customers. However, it will go out of date, and it'll also be subject to copying. Other companies will look at it and think it's successful, and they'll bring out similar products. Even though the first one may attempt to protect the idea through copyright or patents or patents, people pronounce it differently. So they take a patent out, a legal protection for the idea. But even so, copies will start to float around, and the core idea will be taken and modified and changed to get around the patent. So initially we've got this invention. What needs to happen is the company needs to engage in a process of innovation, to take the original idea and start to add functionality, add changes, make it more stylish, make it more interesting, add what it can do, so the customers get even more value for their money and the product becomes even more attractive. Invention is a new idea which requires patents and protection, as I said. Novelty is the main purpose behind inventions. Inventions are something new, something that when customers see it, they're fascinated, they're interested. They've never seen anything like this before. This is a new product, a new way of doing something, or it's a new item for them to enjoy. It'll make their lives easier, or it'll do something, it'll entertain them, it'll do something. It's new. Innovation takes place when there is a need for a product. Existing products are improved or redesigned to develop new products. For example, upgrades to the iPhone, as I mentioned earlier. So innovation kicks in after the invention. Innovation takes the original product and starts to improve it. Add more functionality, better design, better looks, more streamlined, more interesting, constantly making changes. As I said, the example, iPhones and also Microsoft do similar exercises, but you don't have to look to the computer industry, the car industry, and all the different products that are around. Companies seem to be in a continual state of innovation, looking to ways to modify the products and improve the products. So let's say the invention of computer technology. Well, that title is probably wrong, because computers were really invented a long, long time ago with Charles Babbage and so on. So, but take it just as a simple term is to mean the invention of modern computer technology and the adaptation of modern computer technology. Let's say take the last 20 or 30 years, and let's look at the impact of computers over that period. So over the last, say, 20 or 30 years, for instance, microprocessors became more ubiquitous, and there's greater power in computing, and there's networks and internet and so on. When this enabled lots of innovations in other industries. For example, in the transport industry, we're able to book flights online without going to an office. We can book a flight and travel to another country by simply sitting in front of a tablet or a laptop or on a phone. We can book a flight and turn up at the airport and the ticket is there. But we don't even have a physical ticket. We can check in using our phones. So lots of innovations. We can think about it in terms of the way we pay for fuel at a refill station. When we go to refill the petrol or the diesel in cars, we can pay for it using networked systems. We can use credit cards, or we could use Apple Pay just by simply holding our phone over something, touching a piece of apparatus. It automatically debits our account. Lots of innovations in the way ticketing is done, and even the way transport is routed from companies, the logistical systems, the warehousing systems, and the efficiency that all of that generates. We have it in medicine and patient care. A lot of technology is now built into decision making in hospitals. So those are innovations. It started with the computer industry, crunching numbers, doing calculations, and the computer industry spread out mostly to the defense industries, the military, and then it spread on from there to universities and colleges, and from there it spread out into industries, and now it's affecting many aspects of our lives. We see it in terms of education. Galton College is committed to delivering material electronically, because the feeling in Galton College is that's the best way to deliver education. It's the most convenient way. Students don't have to rush to attend a particular lecture, and if they miss the bus, they miss the lecture. Or to get into a room that's full and they can't hear what's been said. Or you get into the room and the lecturer is away ill and there's no lecture, having travelled quite some time. And so on, and so on, and so on. So what we've got is a technology that has led to innovations in many different sectors. I just picked out 3. You can pick out many more if you sit down and think about it. The need for innovation and invention. Well, innovation is a key factor in providing benefits to society and customers. It's through innovation that we get better products. And we get a better standard of living, a better quality of life, because the products are more aligned with what we want. All companies must innovate in order to remain competitive and continue to grow. Such is the nature of the competitive process and internationalization. There are companies all over the world producing essentially the same products, and they're in competition. And if one of them does not innovate or keep up to date, the others will take that market. And that company, the one who did not keep up to date, that company will go out of business. So it's the competitive pressure that forces companies to innovate. There are two types of innovative companies. There's internal innovation through internal research and development, product development and growth. Companies can innovate by having their own research centres, having their own innovative departments, which are looking at the product, constantly trying to change it, to add more to it, to change its look, its appearance, its styling, change the way it's controlled, change it, improve it. But all of the improvements that are accepted must be aligned with the requirements of the customers. So it must be tested out against focus groups and by looking at comments coming back from samples of the population who've been asked to review the proposed changes. But this is internal. It's inside the company. We also have external innovation through alliances, sharing best practice, and open innovation. Alliances, sometimes companies come together and they try to share product developments. Some products are simply so expensive to develop that it's in companies' interests to collaborate and then share the product. Particularly larger projects, obviously. In the past, to build airplanes, if the airplane was innovative, then even countries could collaborate to build the product. But that's external. It's outside of the company. The company and other companies get together to form a business to innovate. It could be open innovation. Open innovation is an interesting one. Universities, when they come up with good ideas, many of them make those freely available, open source. In computing, we have the whole movement for Linux, for example, which is a free operating system, a very powerful operating system, which is offered as an alternative to Microsoft and as an alternative to Apple. And interested parties, people who are interested in open source, will develop different programs which run under that system, which will give good quality experiences to users. So there will be Office suites, Word type, document processors, spreadsheets, presentation packages, databases. But there'll also be games and different types of applications which run in Linux. But the point here is it's outside, it's external innovation. It's companies not doing it themselves internally. They're collaborating with others, or perhaps they're just sharing openly what they see as best practice, or openly cooperating to develop systems which are totally free and open. And they're hoping to perhaps get some sort of commercial payback through their involvement, through enhancing their reputation as people who have supplied something to the market free. So these are some ideas about invention and innovation. Noteworthy amongst them is the idea that invention tends to come up front, somebody's good idea, or somebody's idea. It may not be a good idea, but somebody's idea. And innovation, once the product has been worked out, innovation is then implemented. There's an innovative process that is constantly looking at the product to improve it, to change it, so that it grows and develops, and it develops in line with customers' requirements. So there are two parts to this, and they're quite distinct. Those are the sources that were consulted in developing this, and that's all we're going to deal with here. So let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.